You're listening to Period Story, the podcast where we get behind some of the myths and misconceptions about periods. We chat with women about their period story, their first period, and their journey ever since, and we open up a conversation to help break taboos and stigmas around menstruation. I'm your host, Lanice Brothers. I'm a registered nutritionist, women's health, hormone, and menstrual cycle coach, and the founder of Eat, Love, Move, a nutrition and well-being practice. Welcome to today's guest. On today's episode, we have Fiona Grayson, the founder of She Can, She Did, a platform that puts the spotlight on women in their teens, 20s, and 30s who've dared to go solo and launch their own businesses throughout the UK. She Can, She Did champions female business owners and encourages aspiring female entrepreneurs through a combination of down-to-earth interviews, She Can, She Did podcast, and its informal event series, She Can, She Good, the Midweek Mingle, which takes place in cities around the UK. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Yay.
It's so weird hearing that little intro back. I love it.
Well, you've done so many amazing things, so it's kind of nice to just remind yourself of it sometimes, isn't it? Let's start off by getting into the story of your first period. Can you share with us what happened?
Of course, yeah. So I'm an August baby, and so in schools, obviously that meant that I was the youngest in the year, and so all of my friends, my close friends, they were all about 7 or 8 months older than me. So they were all September, October babies. And I remember being in year 8 in secondary school, and all the girls started coming on their periods. And I remember just feeling for that whole time, they all kind of dropped like flies and everyone started their periods. And it was like this big thing. And I was panicking, like genuinely so worried that something was wrong with me because I was 12 and I still hadn't come on my period. And I remember my mum just being like, Fiona, it's normal, like, you know, everyone's different and all of this. At 12, I remember just lying awake worrying about the fact that I was abnormal. And I remember I had my first holiday abroad, like school trip abroad, it must have been like 2004, February of 2004, and I needed a passport for the first time. And I remember also being a 12-year-old warrior, panicking that my passport wouldn't arrive in time for this school trip. And I remember for a good few weeks there was all of these worries. And I remember on a Friday I got home from school, my passport had arrived, I went to the toilet and I came on my period. And I remember the two came on the same day and I was like, this is a miracle.
It's like a true transition.
Yeah. And I remember like mum was out and I've got such a close family. And I remember like coming out of the bathroom and just being like, Dad, I think I've just come on my period, and Dad being all like, like, classic Dad way. So yeah, that was it. And I remember just literally then from then on for a good few months being so proud every time I came on my period, but never had any pain or anything for like a good few years. And I remember some of my girlfriends got really properly hit by it. And I remember just thinking like throughout my teenage years, God, like I must be so lucky, because to me it like came and went really kind of quite light but regular, just off we went.
So you said that you come from a really open family.
Yeah.
How did your mom teach you about your period, and was she having that conversation with you before you got your period?
Yeah, so I have a big sister. She's 2.5 years older than me. So like I knew it was coming. Like I think my sister started her periods a bit younger. So yeah, for a good few years we'd been talking about it. And I also, you know, it's at that time where like school we were learning about it, and it was just mum would kind of bring it up if Caroline was on her period. So I was just so aware of it. I think like having a big sister forces you to kind of learn about those things probably sooner than you would if you were the older sibling. But yeah, it's just fine. Like I've always had a really close relationship with mum and Carrie. So we always talk about all of that kind of stuff. It was never like secretive. It was never, I never felt uncomfortable asking her any questions. Like, it was just, I think I got really lucky.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The women I've interviewed, generally speaking, the conversations have been quite open. And actually, I have to say, I'm surprised. I was expecting more kind of learning about your period from like the leaflet and the tampon
Really?
pack. Yeah.
Was that like your experience?
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of cobbled things together, and I just kind of, I really suffered. But you said, so you were really open with your sister and your mum. What about your friends? Was it they all got their periods before you? And so
well, there was one friend that hadn't yet, and I remember that we were in it together, and then when I came on my period, she just was panicking even more. It's just crazy, like, what you worry about, because I think she got her period maybe 8 or 9 months after me, but she was so upset during that time that she was like abnormal, and it's one of them things you just don't know when you're going to start, do you? There's no kind of giveaway. But yeah, I mean, we used to talk about, I remember at sleepovers, we used to discuss periods. Like, it was just that, like, we were growing up, and it was, boys and periods. That was pretty much the kind of conversation. So yeah, no, we're really, I mean, they're still my best friends today. So yeah, we always kind of chatted about that kind of stuff.
You said that when you got your period, it was really, I guess, smooth and easy until you went to university, and then you started to change. Yeah,
no, definitely. I remember, I don't know what it was, if it was like stress related or any, like, whatever it was. I remember getting, like, my periods kind of almost changed within a few months, and then I was getting severe back pain. Like, my boobs would always like be the giveaway, like telltale sign that I was going to come on, because I remember just feeling they'd get so swollen. I mean, that was just, I still get that, but my back pain was like excruciating. So it was always the day before I came on, and then the day I came on, my back would just be horrendous. And it was one of those things where you could never get comfortable. You'd want to lean back, but then you'd cramp, and you'd want to lean forward, and then I never felt comfortable. And I remember I used to work in retail in my summer holidays of uni, and I remember I used to work at John Lewis on the shop floor, just standing up all day, and my back, or being on my period, like, I'd have to be fighting back tears. And a funny story, my sister came and visited me on the shop floor, and she had some cocodamol because she had some, like, a really a dodgy injury at the time, and she was like, I've got some really strong painkillers if you want. And I was like, I'll take anything. And she gave me this cocodamol, but there was no water. And then I remember putting it in my mouth, and then a customer came up and asked for some help. So I had this horrendous cocodamol like taste in my mouth, like burning my mouth while I was trying to serve this customer. But yeah, no, I basically, that went on for a few months, but I have always been brought up homeopathically. So I was treated homeopathically for my period and all the stress at the time and everything. And over the course of a few months, it's kind of got it back to normal. So
you had a few months, and then it just stopped.
Yeah, like, so I say stopped. Obviously, I get treated every couple of months. Just generally, I see my homeopath. But so it wasn't like that's the thing with homeopathy. It's not like a quick fix, because it's holistic. They treat everything going on. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to give you like an exact time frame, but I mean, I've been okay for a good few years. So yeah.
Having gone through that shift in gradually shifting the quality of your period, lessening the pain, did it change the way you felt about your period?
Yeah, because I remember during that time I used to dread coming on my period. Like, I used to be like, I mean, it was so weird because it was only that really concentrated time, and then once my first day was over, I didn't even know I was on. Like, the next few days, it was just like, you just deal with it. But the pain in that first 24 hours was just so horrendous. I dread each month. And I've always been pretty much quite clockwork. Like it would be odd for me not to be 28 days now. Sometimes a day or like one day over or under, but normally I'm 28 days. And so, so yeah, at the time it really did, because I'd gone from not caring about my periods or not noticing it was just part of like life, to having that thing a month where it was just so painful. And now it's gone back to just I mean, to me it's a sign of health. I love, like, every time, it's a big relief, like every time I come on I'm like, that's good. Like, not pregnant, so it's good. Yeah.
So you said it's a sign of health. So that's really interesting, and that's the first time I've heard someone say that on this podcast. So can you say more about that and what that means for you?
Yeah, I think it's just, I like my mum worked in the NHS for 30 years, and she had endometriosis. So she turned homeopathy like just before my sister was born. So about 33 years ago, turned homeopathy and was treated homeopathically. And then she worked her way up in the NHS and then became a homeopath herself about 10 years ago. And I've grown up with the notion that she's just enforced that, that it is a healthy thing to have. So I've never been on the pill, not because I'm anti the pill, just I've just chosen not to. And so to me, it is, when I come on like 28 days, I'm not suppressing anything in my body. It's, it's showing that everything inside is working the way it should be. And I just generally feel really grateful for that. So it's, I don't know. To me, it's that my body's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I'm just, grateful that it's all kind of plodding on the way it should. Yeah. It's when I think when I was having all of that pain, at the time in my life, like, it was just a really stressful period for a number of different reasons. And that's when I had all of the kind of, my periods were more painful and they weren't as regular. And because everything was a bit up and down, and I just think that now they're stable. And I think it's just because, I'm okay. I feel good and I feel healthy. And I'm just very aware of what's going in my body. I've always I try and link things up and see it quite holistically. So if my periods were to all of a sudden be really early or really late, my immediate reaction would be to, okay, what's going on in my body? Like, what's going on in my mind? Like, all of that kind of thing. I know it sounds woo-woo to some people, but to me, it's like that. It's the first kind of telltale sign that something's up.
I don't think it sounds woo-woo at all. You said it's a sign of health, and it's actually for women or people who have periods, it's one of our vital signs. So when it's really early, when it's really late, or when it's really heavy or painful, that's a sign that something isn't going as it should.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think it's really important that you have that connection with your body. And so when you notice that something has gone amiss, so it's either early, a day early, or day late, and you said you check in with your body, what sort of things do you do to course correct?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like a day either side, I would be like, so I'll give or take that. It's if, for instance, I suddenly had a 3-week cycle, I'd be like, whoa, okay, something's up. And everything from stress, eating, like sleep, what's going on work-wise, relationships, everything. Like, am I pushing my body too hard? Am I feeding it the right foods? Everything. Like, in general, I feel like I've always had quite a good relationship with healthy eating and like balanced eating and exercise. So that's not normally it. It's normally if anything was to go amiss, it'd be stress related from work or a relationship thing or something. So yeah, just all of that.
And that's so interesting, because we know now that stress is a driver of so many different diseases in our society, in Western society. And I see that a lot in my practice, where women, they're coming to me with terrible period problems. And when we kind of unpick what's going on with their health, they're under huge amounts of the different types of stress, whether it's
Yeah.
work stress or